Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar for the Community Grants Programme for 2026. We will be starting shortly. I know that there are still some people joining, but I will just do some housekeeping while that's all going on. You should be able to see on the screen at the moment the key dates for the programme this year for the applications to open tomorrow. They then close on the 27th of February at midday. Application outcomes will be the 20th of April, the week commencing, and we expect to be making grant payments in the month of May, but we will be confirming dates. You should also be able to see on there what we're going to be covering in today's session. It's going to be a 30-minute session on the programme for this year. We'll talk a little bit about who we are and what changes we've made for this grant round, a walkthrough of the application, what makes a strong application, some things to avoid, and the support that's available to you. Just before we get started, you might have noticed that cameras and microphones are switched off for all the attendees. Just to let you know that that is the case for everyone, and because we're recording this session today, the session is going to be available afterwards on our website, and we'll be sharing this with you. So if you missed part of the session, you'll be able to go back. If you do have any questions, we hope that we'll answer them through this session, but we would also still really love to hear from you. The chat function today is disabled, but the Q&A function is available. So please feel free to ask your questions in there. We won't be answering any live questions. Hopefully we'll cover most of it, but anything that we do miss, we'll be following up with an updated Q&A FAQs afterwards. So with that in mind, I think that we will get started. And as I said, today's session is being recorded. So let's get going. So starting off with who we are. I'll start with myself. So I'm Talia, and I look after the Community Grants Programme for the KFC Youth Foundation. And I'm also being joined today by my colleague Jenny, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Morning, everybody. Yes, so I'm Jenny Barnes. I'm Head of Income Generation, and I'm here basically just to manage the Q&A section of today's event.
Thanks, Jen. So before we get into the Community Grants Programme, I'm just going to go over a bit about the foundation for those of you who aren't so familiar with us. So we are a charitable organisation that was established over 10 years ago. And in fact, last year we celebrated our 10th birthday, and also £10 million raised, which was a great coincidence for us as well, for marketing. And we're established to empower young people to build a bright future, to overcome barriers and to fulfil their potential. And there's three ways that we do that. We do that through safe and inclusive spaces for young people, investments into grassroots organisations like yourselves, and pathways to employment and opportunity. So our three core programmes that represent those are youth hubs. So we opened up our first youth hub in 2025 last year, and that youth hub is in Middlesbrough, and it's a safe space for young people to learn and grow in the local community. And we've got plans to open up more youth hubs in the future as well. But last year was the year that we also moved into service delivery. We have been a financial partner solely before that, so it was a really exciting year for us to move into that space. And also last year we took over the partnership of Hatch with the brand, with KFC, and that is an employability programme that supports young people with work placements and support them onto their journey into employment. And also probably they're a good time to talk a bit about where we sit with the brand. So we're a registered charity, and we are a separate organisation to KFC. They support us financially, but we are an independent organisation. And then finally, grants, which is what we're here today to talk about. That is the programme that we started with in 2020. And we support grassroots organisations around the UK with small grants. We've supported with nearly 600 grants over that time to the value of £1.6 million. And last year was our biggest year ever. We were able to support with more than £500,000 of funding. So that's a really quick overview of what we do. And let's get into what we're here to talk about today, which is the community grants programme for this year and the changes that we've made. We're going to start with a brief idea of what we've changed for this year as we move to align better with our funding aims. So firstly, we've moved from a two-stage process to a one-stage process. And that's to reduce the administration on both sides for yourselves and for ourselves. We've also reduced the amount of supporting documents that you have to provide in that process to really simplify and streamline that work. We've provided new guidance to support those changes through this webinar, but also some documents that hopefully you've seen, but they're also available on our website, and we'll be sharing all those links with you. We've refreshed our eligibility and our application questions, and that's to better align with our mission in the foundation. And we've done those things really to improve the consistency and fairness of our work, and ultimately to maximise the impact on our shared mission, which is to support young people. So who the grant is for. So the grant is for small organisations around the UK who have an income under £400,000, who are focused on supporting young people aged 11 to 25 in areas of deprivation according to the IMD data, and provide young people with at least one of the following: so building life skills, diversionary activities, or safe spaces. And we're very conscious that some definitions might be differing between ourselves and what your organisations define them as. So just sharing a bit more detail on that. So we define youth-focused organisations as those whose main mission is to support young people through dedicated youth programmes. And that's something that we'll be checking governance documents against to check that we have an aligning mission on supporting young people. And then how we define those safe spaces, building life skills, and diversionary activities. So we believe a safe space is a physically and emotionally secure environment supported by trusted adults. Diversionary activities, these are activities that are clearly aimed at reducing risk factors like antisocial behaviour, substance misuse, school exclusion, and things like that. And life skills, which is activities that are aimed at helping young people to prepare for independent living, further education or employment, for example. So these are the core elements of organisations that are eligible to apply for a grant from the foundation. And the more operational requirements for an applicant is that they need to be a registered charity CIO, CIC, or CBS. And the reason for that is because we have made sure that part of our process is to be as flexible as possible. And that's why we introduced flexible funding. Organisations that sit outside of that can also support wider groups. So that's where we've made that change. It needs to have a bank account with 2 signatories, an active board of trustees or directors, a safeguarding policy that's suitable. We do recommend to have a look on the NSPCC's website for support on guidance in creating templates and policies. They produce really great documents to support. If anything's missing out of safeguarding policies, we would ask for them to be updated in order to receive a grant. Organisations have to have existed for at least 12 months, and they must have at least 12 months of accounts. So moving on to what we do fund and what we don't fund. So we do fund core organisational costs that enable you to deliver youth-focused work. We are able to support staffing and youth workers connected to programme delivery. And also equipment and materials needed to run safe spaces, activities, and life skills. And anything that for a programme to be funded needs to be able to demonstrate positive results within the 12 months of the funding. What we aren't able to fund is membership organisations where the people attending have to pay membership fees, statutory bodies or work fulfilling statutory obligations, promotion of religion, curricular activities during the school day, repayments of loans or debts, or funding that's solely for sports kits. So now we're going to go through a quick walkthrough of applications and what that will look like for you. So first of all applications need to be completed on SurveyMonkey, which is our portal for grant applications. The first thing that you would have to do after registering is to complete a eligibility questionnaire. These are knockout questions. If you're not eligible, you will not be able to complete the full application afterwards. So your answers depend whether you'll be able to complete that full application. If you are eligible, you'll then be moved on to complete the full application. We do ask that everyone's as honest as possible in this section. We will be checking in our due diligence process, and that would mean that any applications that do not meet the eligibility requirements would be withdrawn at that later stage. And then the full application. So if you're eligible to apply, you will then be able to complete the full application. So there would be 3 tasks for you to complete on the right side of the screen. I've just drawn an arrow towards them so you can see where they'd sit. They should have a green tick box when you've completed them, and then make sure that you click on the submit button that I've circled on the left hand side of the screen there. That moves your application to us so that we can see it. If it isn't submitted, that would mean that it doesn't get sent to us. So please make sure you do that before the deadline date. And then next, the assessment and outcomes. The foundation team will assess every application that comes through, and then we work with young people to make decisions on who should receive a grant, and that's because young people are the beneficiaries of the foundation's work, and we truly value the youth voice in our work to represent that. So young people make the decision for us on who should receive that grant, because who's better to tell us how to spend it than the young people that benefit from it. We also have volunteers from KFC, from restaurant teams, from the head office teams as well, that support us in helping to make those decisions. And they love to get to see applications that perhaps are local to their restaurant that they get to review as well. So next is how we fund. So we are funding up to £6,000 over 2 years. It's £3,000 in the first year and £3,000 in the second year. After a successful grant is awarded, you'll be invited to a welcome call on Teams, and that's so that we get the chance to meet properly once all the boring paperwork's out the way, and we actually get to have a face-to-face together to talk about what's coming up. And that's the bit that we're really most excited for working with you. You will also have to complete an evaluation form 12 months after your first grant, and then 12 months after the second grant. And this is something that you will have agreed to in the deed of grant. So receiving a grant is dependent on the completion of these evaluation forms. You will also need to let us know during the grant period if there's any safeguarding incidences that occur that require notifying the Charity Commission. We expect to be told the details of the incident without sharing any personal information and what the outcome was with the Charity Commission. We of course expect you to deal with the incident at hand first, and to let us know afterwards what happened. And then finally, keeping in touch. We love to get out and visit our partners as much as we can. We love getting to see you in person and to support work that you're doing. And we also love to bring people from KFC along with us on that journey as well. So if there's any volunteering opportunities that we can pass on to them or that we could get involved with, we will always try our best. So we would always love to hear you in that. So next up is what makes a strong application. Just a couple of tips from us on what your application should contain. So first of all is clear alignment to our funding pillars that I mentioned earlier. So that's the safe space, life skills or diversionary activities. Strong evidence of local need. Organisational stability and youth voice embedded in your work, and really sharing the examples, case studies of where those things happen. And then next is a couple of thoughts to keep in mind when you're making your application. So first of all, you have the option to complete your application, your full application in either written or video format. It's just to let you know that there's no advantage to choosing video or written. It's just whatever you're more comfortable with. We will ask you to answer the same questions, whichever you choose to do, written or video, and we'll be assessing it in the same way. So there won't be there'll be full fairness on those applications. It is just whatever you're more comfortable with doing. If you do choose to make a video, please don't worry about making it look very professional or anything like that. It's what you're telling us that really matters and what we'll be assessing. It can be taken on the phone of you just talking to the camera. It doesn't have to have young people in it, so you don't have to worry about consent or anything like that. If young people don't want to be in it, that's fine. And like I said, we'll be asking you to answer the same questions either way. Please make sure you read our guidance and the supporting documents that we've provided to ensure that you're eligible for a grant. As I said earlier, we might have different definitions to things as your organisation does on things like our funding pillars and our youth focus. And then finally is to make sure that you evidence your work, as I said in the previous slide, where you're sharing things with us, make sure that you're backing up what you're saying. An example of that is perhaps saying something like youth voice is embedded in our work. That statement doesn't tell us the evidence behind that. So please show us things that really demonstrate that youth work is embedded in your work, for example. Use case studies, statistics, examples of where those things occur, and across the other things that we're assessing for as well. And following on from that as well, with AI, we believe that AI is a great thought partner, but it doesn't replace the heart piece of the work that you do. AI often makes up answers if it doesn't know the answer, and it is designed to please you essentially. So it doesn't always demonstrate what you want it to. It's great to bounce ideas off of and help structure your work, but it can really miss out key information, and we see it quite often with, like I said, with that evidence piece before, that making statements that aren't backed up. So just a thought from us on using those kinds of systems and using them in the right way. We are holding ourselves to the same accountability there when we're assessing applications, that we are going to be assessing them personally, because you've taken the time, of course, to write them. So moving on to support available, just to round off for us. So what's available to you on the left-hand side? Like I said, you have some resources available to you. The FAQs, a template that has all the questions we ask from beginning to end of the application process, the dates that are included as well, and the guidance. I have put a QR code up on the screen there, and that will take you to our website. Don't worry if you don't have time to get your phone out while this page is on. we'll be sharing all this information with you as well. On the right hand side as well is the help desk for SurveyMonkey. When you're on the account, on the top right hand screen, there should be a circle with an eye in the middle. If you click on that drop down box, it should say that having technical issues with this site, fill in support request form. You'll be able to talk to SurveyMonkey about anything regarding access to your account, anything that is happening on the account itself. And the reason I say that is because due to GDPR, SurveyMonkey don't allow me to have access to your account, so I can't do things like resetting passwords because that sits with them. So if you have any issues with that, please do contact them for anything like forgetting login details. So that takes us nearly towards the end. I am just sharing the key dates again for you to keep in mind. The application is open tomorrow, which we're really excited about. I just want to thank you all for attending today. I do hope that this session's been useful and that I've answered some of your questions that you've had about the process. I will be keeping this Q&A section open for a couple minutes longer so you can add in any more questions that you might have, and we'll send out an updated FAQs afterwards with anything that we've missed during this session. So that's us for today. Thank you again, and we're really looking forward to seeing your applications. Thank you.